does a simple little mobile game have in common with a massive global banking system? Well, they both rely on one secret weapon to manage all that chaos. A really brilliant way of taming complexity. And today, we're going to unlock that secret.
Just think about it for a second. When you're faced with some huge, complicated project, it doesn't matter if it's for work or school or even just building some flat-pack furniture, where do you even start? Seriously, how do you tackle that beast without just getting totally overwhelmed? Because, let's be honest, if you just try to do everything all at once, you end up with chaos, right? It's like, imagine trying to cook a 5-course meal, but instead of separate, neat recipes, all you have is one single mile-long scroll of instructions with everything all mixed together. You'd have directions for the soup right next to the baking time for the dessert. It would be a complete and utter disaster. So, what's the alternative to that crazy scroll? Well, what if you had a beautifully organized recipe book where each dish gets its own clear, separate page? This simple idea, in the world of design and programming, is the whole secret behind something called modularization. So here's the official definition. Modularization is just the art of breaking down a big program into smaller, more manageable, logical chunks. And each one of those little chunks is responsible for just one specific task. It's literally turning that giant, messy scroll into a nice, neat recipe book.
Now, you're going to hear this idea called a whole bunch of different things. Subroutines, functions, procedures, methods. But hey, don't let the jargon fool you. They all boil down to the exact same powerful idea. Just break a big problem into smaller, bite-sized pieces.
And this, right here, just shows you the transformation perfectly. We go from that tangled, confusing spaghetti mess on the left to this clean, organized, clear structure on the right. You can immediately see how breaking things down brings order and makes the entire system so much easier to understand. Okay, so why is this approach so incredibly powerful? What are the actual benefits of having that well-organized recipe book instead of the messy, chaotic scroll?
And all these advantages, they translate perfectly to our cooking metaphor. So for example, abstraction just means the head chef doesn't need to know every single tiny step of the sauce recipe. They just need to trust that the make sauce recipe works. It lets multiple programmers, or in our case, chefs, work at the same time. You could have one person working on appetizers and another on dessert, and they wouldn't get in each other's way at all. And of course, my favorite, it allows for reuse. If you have a killer recipe for a tomato sauce, you can use that same module for lasagna tonight and for pizza next week. It's just all about being smart and efficient.
Okay, theory is great and all, but let's actually see how this works with a super simple, concrete example. We're going to build a tiny little program that just calculates the average of two numbers. So, let's take a look at the recipe. All right, so on the left, we've got the pseudocode. You can think of that as the written recipe text, right? And on the right, that's the flowchart, which is kind of like a visual map of the workflow in the kitchen. They both show the exact same process, just in different ways. You can see we have our main logic, and then 3 distinct little modules. One to get the numbers, one to do the math, and one to show the final result. So let's focus in on that first column in the flowchart. This is our main program. And I want you to think of this as the head chef. Now, the head chef doesn't actually chop the onions or stir the pot. Nope. Their job is to direct the kitchen, to call on the right assistant chef at exactly the right time to perform one specific task. And this brings us to 2 really key terms you gotta know. The caller is the program giving the orders. That's our head chef. The callee is the module that gets called on to do the work. That's our assistant chef. It's a really simple but really powerful hierarchy. So first thing our head chef does is call the get input module. They're basically saying, hey, you, go get me 2 numbers from the user. And at that exact moment, the head chef just pauses. Control passes over to this assistant chef, the get input module, whose one and only job is to get those 2 numbers. So once that get input assistant has the 2 numbers and returns them, the head chef takes control back and immediately calls on the next specialist in line, the calculate average module. This assistant's only job is to take those 2 numbers, add them up, divide by 2, and figure out the average. That's it. And finally, once that average is calculated and returned, the head chef calls the last assistant, print result. This module's job is super simple. Just take that final number and present it beautifully to the user. And notice, after each assistant finishes their little task, they always return control right back to the head chef, who then decides what to do next. So, okay, A head chef and a few assistants can calculate an average. Big deal, right? But what happens when you scale this idea up? Like, way up? Well, this simple idea, it's the bedrock that lets us build the most complex systems in the entire world.
I mean, seriously. Every single time you use an app on your phone, or check your bank account online, or scroll through social media, you are interacting with a system built from millions of lines of code. And the only way developers can manage that insane complexity is by breaking it all down into thousands or even millions of these small, reusable modules, each with one specific job to do.
So the next time you tap on an app, just think about that invisible kitchen humming along behind the scenes, the head chef, and this whole army of specialists, all working together in perfect coordination. It's such a powerful way to manage complexity, not just in code, but pretty much everywhere. And it kind of leaves you with a question, doesn't it? Where else in your world is some seemingly impossible task just a collection of simple recipes waiting to be followed?